Your training investment is wasted. What? Yeah, your sales training investment is wasted. Your dollars which you put, or your euros which you put in investing in in sales training, those are wasted. Sort of. It's true, and it's not always true. In this podcast, I will go a little bit deeper into the topic of return on investment on sales training. The don'ts and the do's. And I will start with the don'ts and I will end with the do's. I want to end positive, of course. But before I go to the don'ts, I will go to some research here and there to show you and to prove um, how and when those investments of money into sales training are wasted. Right. The problem of training, decay versus retention of single shot sales training events. This is from a research from the Sales Performance Institute. This research is 14 years old, it's from 2010. And it shows here retention. And it's about retention of knowledge. So what we see here is the effect of that, the retention of knowledge. You cannot measure application, but you can measure with a test, for instance, a simple test, how much do they remember after a specific period of time. We have a time on the y-axis, and we have the result, the percentage of retention, knowledge retention, on the x-axis. And mind you that the application will always be less than knowledge. It's simple that you cannot put into practice what you don't remember. So the application part, if you could measure it in percentage, that would always be less than the percentage we see here in knowledge retention. So what we see here, in less than a month, 45% is retained. That means 55% is already gone in 1 month. After 1 month, it goes very quick. 80% is gone, 20% is retained. So we know application is less than 20%. 2 months, even less. Somehow in between 3 and 6 months, there's a little bit of revival. And then in the second half year, 7 months to 12 months, that is, I think, 6%. So 94% of your investment is gone. And it's a little bit worse even after years. So what is left is 4 or 5%. And if you do it like that, if you do the refresher or repetition of a sales training, 1 session per year, every year, your starting level will be that 5% again and again and again. And so what happens is that if you present the same topics and as a trainer and you start to train those topics, the trainees they will recognize it. And they are in assumption at that moment that, yeah, but I have already seen this, I know this. If they know it, has nothing to do, like we already saw, with application, applying it into practice. And also, even more, has nothing to do with mastery. Are they actually mastering those techniques? Yeah, and that takes muscle memory. So a lot of application, a lot of applying. So they will be sitting there, but they know this. So I don't have to pay attention anymore. So in this way, it could even have an adverse effect. But at least you know you will start all over again. So this is the the shocking results of the return on investment expressed in knowledge retention out of a single shot training event. And this is not new. This actually This is Herman Ebbinghaus, and he was a psychologist, and he was already researching knowledge retention. So this is actually the same graph, but the two factors are swapped on the axis. So we have now time on the x-axis and we have retention on the y-axis. But it's the same, of course. We see here in 31 days, a little bit above 20%. It's the same. And this was already in 1885. So this is not particular sales training, but this is just more broader about knowledge. And yet I hear you say or think, yeah, but we had good results every now and then. Sometimes we saw good results. Yeah, that's true. 1 month. Um, this is until so far some research which I found is a little bit older. I have here another one, and that's the Objective Management Group. The Objective Management Group is a specialized research institute in the US, founded by the guru Dave Kurlan, and they have researched throughout the years. Like I think they have a database now of 3 million. So they have tested, researched, assessed, evaluated 3 million salespeople, and they found quite good, solid data. What makes an excellent salesperson, a sales rep, or an excellent sales team excellent? And I found this. What impact does training have on the sales team's competencies? Well, that's interesting. Here are the key takeaways. After training, salespeople improve the sales percentile by 30%, the difference between less than 70% quota and over 90%. So probably that's 65 versus 95. I don't know. Observed significant improvement in 5 out of 10 tactical competencies, probably skills: qualifying, selling value, consultative selling, reaching decision makers, and closing. These are typical skills. This is something you can do. You can acquire it, you can learn it, and you can put it into practice. You can actually do it. So there's apparently a significant improvement. That's interesting. We also observed significant improvement in 3 out of the 6 sales DNA. So this is the more genetic competencies: comfort discussing money, the buy cycle, and the need for approval. The need for approval, of course, is a negative competence, because if you have that need for approval, you want to be liked, you will be not asking challenging questions, or you will be afraid to cold call, or you will be afraid to close. On average, the will to sell competence, which I call drive, did not improve significantly. And that's not strange, because that's deeper in the DNA. That's an internal job. It's part of that self-improvement. It's part of that discipline. It's part of holding yourself accountable and putting your drive there. But if you're not born with drive, with eagerness, with determination, how are you going to put it into practice? So it's easier to learn a skill, but it's harder to put a talent into practice which you don't have, or where you score low. Can training help salespeople improve? Yes, of course. They improved 30%. Okay, we already saw that in the key takeaways. So this data is regarding, let's say, a little bit more than 5,000 salespeople and 21 sales competencies. Okay, so that's on message. Okay, that's just more of the same. This one is very interesting. One highlighted. We have to read this one very carefully. These improvements should be great news to any CEO or sales leader considering investing in sales transformation. Note that Dave is not using the word training. But there's more. Over the years, we have observed that improvements in technical selling skills are not just, pay attention, not just the result of better coaching and repeat exercise. The salespeople who improve their technical skills the most are the ones who also can reprogram their long-held beliefs about selling, what OMG calls sales DNA, what I call belief. So in my previous video, the sales sex formula, already discussed the devastating effect of having subconscious limiting beliefs, the hurdles you put in front of you, which you made up yourself. And here we see something else, this one. Not just the result of better coaching and repeat exercise. What do you mean? Are we doing that then? Well, until so far not. Because until so far, 90-95% of investment in sales training is that one single shot event. There's no coaching, not by the trainer, not by the sales manager. There's also no repeating exercise. So OMG already propagates for years and years, if you want return on investment out of your training, the single shot sales training event doesn't work, like also Ebbinghaus already discovered without knowing anything about sales in 1885, and also the Sales Performance Institute already researched in 2010. It's the same thing. If you do it like that, it will not work. So you need to have repetitive cycles, and you need to have coaching on the job, and you need to have one-on-one monitoring. Also, Lombardo and Eichinger came with that. I will come to Lombardo and Eichinger with the 70-20-10 rule later. So apparently he is sort of referring back to, that's something you already should have done. Better coaching and repetitive exercises. Then he discovers here, even that is not enough. You also need to have or to facilitate your sales reps being able to reprogram their often subconscious limiting beliefs. And that's not training, that's coaching. That's monitoring. It's not even monitoring, it's one-on-one personal effectiveness coaching. So all of that is necessary to improve, and also the rest is the same. Let's go to George Brunton. I think he's from Norway. Doing similar stuff, doing a lot of research, fantastic blogs, fantastic vlogs. You can also find him on LinkedIn. And here we have, can I put this away? I don't want to, okay, whatever, done. Sales transformation is not a one-day training event. This is music to my ears. If you have been reading my blog for long, you won't be surprised to hear me say sales training alone won't fix your sales problems or transform your sales team. So that's interesting. First, he's defining what is actually sales transformation. I would say sales transformation is indeed substantial, profound, sustainable, long-term, solid, grounded improvements in revenue, profits, customer success, and goal achievement, but also what is necessary to change, improve, sustainable as an activity or as behavior or as skill in order to get revenue, profits, customer success, goals, etc., etc. So any kind of investment in sales transformation should be a short-term, mid-term, long-term process, not an event, a process, a cycle, a program. There's stuff which I'm missing here, but all of this is fantastic. This is good. Oh, this one. Oh, guys, please do that. Win-loss analysis every sales meeting. Yeah, that's it. This is it. This is good. Qualification, engagement. This is interesting, right? How sellers are guided through the sales process with enablement content, all right, and how that is aligned with the decision-making process of your prospects. This suggests that your sales process is aligned with the decision-making process of your prospects. That also means you should überhaupt have a sales process. All right. So, um, so we have seen that at the single shot trading event, the return on investment is super low, and you better not do it. You forget about it. It doesn't work like this. So um, we know that it's a process, it's a program. It's actually not training, but it's transformation. There are also non-skills related things. There's like mindset, there's DNA, there's process, there's qualification, there is methodology, all the right people on the right seats. There's a lot more going on. Well, oh, by the way, talent, of course, finding talent and keeping talent, that's all about having the right person on the right seats. So there's a lot more than that quick fix, that short-term fixation on motivation, number, and skills in one shot, in one event, which would solve all your problems. It's actually a little bit like, I don't want to say it. If you look at it like this, would you agree? Looking back, if you now think by so yeah, but this is actually how we did it. Is it not a little bit kind of naive to expect to solve all these issues in one shot and then spray and pray that everything will be fine? Mm, okay. Um, right. There's more. I promised you do's and don'ts, or actually don'ts and do's. Here we go. One of the don'ts: squeeze as much content as possible in one session because we think that is efficient. And I have so many frustrations and observations. And please, Mr. Trainer, here's all the the stuff you need to solve for me in one magical session, please. Um, so the more content you have, the less they will remember, of course. Oh, okay, change the order. Assume that when I explain, they understand, they can do, and they will do. This is something which I noticed, especially with the rise of remote training through, for instance, the webinar kind of format. I have experienced many, often more product knowledge, but also sales training through webinar kind of format where the whole sales team logs on. There are 30 people, maybe 60 people. You don't even see them. There's no interaction. And somebody is presenting a typical death by PowerPoint kind of message, 65 slides in 1 hour, and they will talk, and explain from their own reference frame. There will maybe, if you're a little bit lucky, some attention to features and benefits. So how do the features of my service, of my product, benefit my customer, which is still inside out thinking, is not based on reality, it's just something made up by the marketing department, like we think this is the benefit you will have. So that has nothing to do with solution selling or consultative selling. So there will maybe features and benefits, and if you're even more unlucky, not even that. And we assume, or this presenter assumes, that when they talk and explain, yes, indeed, they will remember everything, they will understand everything, they can put it into practice at that moment, everything, and they will even do that. All of these is just quicksand. This is based on assumptions. Overwhelm too much theory when there are better ways to learn theory. One way, no interaction. Yeah, that happens a lot. This, and even in so-called practical trainings, in-person trainings, not just talking webinar format. There's just sending, and yeah, like this guy, this guy. This is not me. We have the same hairdresser, but that's all. That's by PowerPoint. Yeah, well, that's a clear, well-known phenomenon. Too many slides and too much information on a slide. Single shots, no repetition. There we go again. There's no repetition. So how can I master? No attention to application. There's no shadowing, no coaching, no field coaching, no on-the-job coaching, no monitoring, no one-on-ones, no discussion, no win-loss cases in the sales meeting, no practicing in the sales meeting, no manager who goes along side by side with you to prospects and customers and helps you with that application and helps you to become better. I ask this every sales leader. How much time do you spend on coaching? And I'm not talking one on one going through the pipeline every 2 weeks. I'm talking about on the job field coaching. And if you have a sales team selling everything remote, it's a little bit easier to organize that. It's a little bit more efficient. But if you have a sales team which is going out in the field, you should be there. How much time do you think, also according to the objective management group, how much time do you think um, a sales leader needs to spend on field coaching and on the job coaching in order to get optimal results out of the sales team? Over 50%. Let that sink in. You should, if you're now listening as a sales leader, you should spend 50% of your time or better more of your week on field coaching and job coaching. That will elevate your team to sky high results. So on the job and field coaching, more than 50%. If you don't spend this and you spend it on other things, you're actually spending time on things which are less important and which contribute less, which have less impact to results. No backup in e-learning. You see, now that we have internet, you can organize learning or theory in more efficient ways than telling. I always say telling is not selling, but training is also not telling. Telling is not training. It's easier to organize and more efficient and even more effective to organize the learning of theory in e-learning. I will come back to that when I discuss the do's with you. There's no involvement from management. Oh my God, I have seen that so many times. The manager, after that first frustrations throw up meeting, there's no involvement anymore. Maybe at the end of the session, this 2 days in the hotel in some forest, then maybe the manager comes to check out how it was going and to have a drink with you at the end of the training, and that's it. And of course, you debrief a bit. And that's it. After that, nothing happens. So there's no good briefing, no good customization. There's no process, there's no program, there's no involvement in the sense that the manager actually knows what is trained and what is discussed during the training. And after the training, also nothing happens. There's no coaching, there's no guidance, there's just, okay, this trainer has done his best. Now it's up to you, dear sales rep. I don't even know what went on there, and I'm also not paying attention to your mastering process. The sales process and the CRM and in the field are not aligned. And that happens a lot when there's actually no explicit sales process überhaupt. No consciously chosen sales methodology. So a methodology and a process are two different things. Of course, it's a little bit interwoven, but If you don't have an evaluated sales methodology, it's actually again spray and pray. You're depending on coincidence, and success will not depend on coincidence. And if you're in B2B, and like I told earlier, my experience is mainly like 80% B2B, and the rest is B2C and retail, where the decision-making process are a little bit more complicated. In that case, you need a very well evaluated, conscious chosen sales methodology, like for instance consultative selling and all of its spin-offs: outcome-based selling, value-based selling, solution selling, um, gap selling. I love gap selling. Spin, of course, star. What else do we have? Am I forgetting one? Challenger sale or so. But for me, there's not one fantastic. It's better to pull here and there some fantastic things out all of them and make something your own. But at least have one. At least have an explicit sales methodology. Dashboards are not being used as input for coaching and training. Oh, yeah. Um, Dashboards are used to evaluate the performance. Are you working hard enough? Why did you have only 6 meetings last week and not 10 as we agreed? Boo, boo, boo. But the dashboards, so the KPIs, are not being used as input for coaching and training. And actually, we've already seen which KPIs are perfect for evaluating the performance, the quality. Sales cycle time, average deal size, conversion ratios. And if you dedicate sales training events shorter and connect them to the stages in the sales process, for instance, you dedicate like 3-4 sessions, maybe more, doesn't matter so much, but you dedicate those sessions to discovery. After a while, you should be able to see an increase in the conversion ratios from discovery to the next stage. Makes sense, right? And if you do it like this, stage by stage by stage, and separate and isolate those training and dedicate that isolated session towards one specific stage in the sales process again and again, you will see an increase the result of that sales training. At least you should see that in that particular conversion ratio. So focus on production versus effectiveness. Yeah, that's also true. I think that one of the outcomes of training should be working harder, but that's not the case. We already have seen, and I have proven in a previous video, that quality beats quantity every time, and big time. So how to do it? The do's. Yes, yes, yes. Finally, the do's. How to do it. How to organize a training program, transformation program, in such a way that it actually delivers return on investment. And mind you, the delta factor is 7. So that means that if you sort of assume that the result of a single shot event is, let's say, 10%, we have seen that it's less, but throughout a year on average, 10%, you can actually achieve 70% knowledge retention. Again, it takes on-the-job coaching and field coaching to also help your people actually apply it and master it. So what we see here is, again, the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, which also applies for that one single shot session event. On the y-axis we see results, and on the x-axis we see time, and this is how it's done. Drip feeding, multiple sessions, repetitive cycles, optimal retention curve. So this is the optimal retention curve. And what you how you do this is that you have short, very short sessions, like what I said, dedicated to one specific topic. And of course, there can be more sessions isolated, dedicated to that one specific topic. So you can see and measure the results. You do that on a weekly or maximum bi-weekly basis. And of course, if you do it remote, effect of a remote session, of course, is lower than an in-person session. If you can organize it that you do it every week in person, that's the best thing you can do. And that's also why I say organize it yourself. You don't need to be dependent on an external trainer. Dear sales leader, you can do it yourself. You can organize half an hour, always, every week, a little bit of training. So then you combine the best of both worlds. High frequent, short sessions in person. Um, and if you do it remote, it's still the same thing, short interval time, maximum 2 weeks, but better is to do 1 week short sessions. So my suggestion here is an hour or maximum 1.5. That's enough. You can do enough there. If you want to combine it with in-person live group sessions, classroom sessions, perfect. We don't need those 2, 3 days once a year in the hotel anymore, where we forget everything already after a month. What you can do is mix the remote weekly session or the let's call it blend, because it's called blended learning for a reason. So to blend this remote weekly session of 1.5 hour together, combine it, blend it with the in-person live training session of maximum 3, 4 hours in the group session. Um, you can do that like every 2 months, for instance. And you can, if you blend it like that, you will have the utmost, the best effect, the highest results. In every session, again and again, you repeat what is being done previous. You repeat previous session. And I'm not talking theory, I'm talking practicing. If last session was all about objection handling, this session today, we will repeat, we will refresh, we train, we practice, 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 practice objection handling. Always repeat old before new. Modular building blocks, like you build a block and a block and a block and a block, so topic by topic, module by module, and isolated, dedicated to the stages in the sales process. Theory through e-learning and homework. You can separate theory and practicing perfectly now that we can organize e-learning through an LMS. The perfect thing about having an LMS, learning management system, that you can actually see, you can track and trace who's on it, who's doing the homework, who's going through the modules, how do they score in a test and a quiz. Test and quizzes should be there at the end of a theory module. You can even say, make it mandatory if you want to come to the training about objection handling, for instance, or discovery of solution or whatever. You should have done the e-learning and have a minimum score there. That is perfect. If it's not all clear, no problem. Of course, you are allowed to ask questions during the practical session, but in this way, you can very quickly go through the questions, maybe 10, maybe 50 minutes maximum, repeat a little theory, may explain a little bit, not too much, and then you can, bam, go directly again to practicing, role-playing, role-playing. Group sessions, yeah. If you are with a group together, whether it be remote, the weekly, bi-weekly remote session, 1.5 hour max, 80% practicing, 20% max theory. And the same, of course, goes for that 3, 4 hour live classroom group session. 80% practicing, 20% max theory. Very important. So we have seen that too many managers or do not enough coaching, or not enough managers do enough coaching. It's the same thing. Individual coaching by the direct manager is so super important because your rep needs help to understand, to remember, to understand, to practice, and to master. They need guidance with that. And the more field and on the job coaching or one on one meetings, the higher the results. Block everything out of your agenda. This is the number one priority. Result comes from out of the field, and you're the one responsible for that. Make practicing part of your weekly sales meeting. Put one half hour, put half an hour as a repetitive agenda item on the weekly sales meeting. Make self-evaluation part of your daily activities. Of course, this is not just for the sales leader, this is also for the sales rep, for you. After each meeting, make quick notes what you think went well and where you think you can improve. After every day, you collect all those meetings, write them down, put it in some self-learning note block or in your computer or whatever, but collect that. Also choose one specific skill or technique or item per week. So for instance, this will be my discovery week. This week I will train my discovery. I will put extra focus and attention and concentration on there. Or this will be my objective handling technique, or this will be my open question week. So you choose a specific item, technique, or topic, or whatever at the beginning of the week and evaluate yourself meeting after meeting after meeting. You will grow so fast if you do it like this. So all of this is also not new. I promised you the 70-20-10 model of Lombardo and Eichinger. My interpretation is a little bit different than how it's formulated here. They say, okay, 10% of result comes from classroom sessions, courses, and reading. So there's the group session as well as the e-learning. Another 20% comes from one-on-one coaching, mentoring and coaching, and 70% comes from on-the-job experience, but not if you stay subconscious, if you depend on coincidence. So the 70% is guided experience, coached experience. If it's coached experience, then I agree. So how to apply it? The responsibility from the trainee to consciously apply content. This, of course, is according to adult learning theory. It's not only the trainer's job and not only the manager's. It's not only the trainer's job to train, and it's not only the manager's job to coach. As um, a sales rep, you have your own responsibility in that 70%, and by evaluating yourself every day. Piece by piece, chunk by chunk, topic by topic, item by item, isolated and connected, dedicated to specific stages. Bi-weekly sessions, long-term programs. I will give you an example of a long-term program right away. If it's 5 weeks weekly, that's not enough. Start every new session with repeating. Okay, we have seen that. Direct leads spends 50% of the time. Yeah, we have seen that. Good. Focus on practice and skills at least 50%. Oh, 80%. Theory as much as possible through e-learning, LMS. Perfect. And have tests and certificates. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And there we have it, blended learning. So the example I promised you, this is an example of a modular curriculum. So here you have, for instance, consultative selling 1, that's one module, and here you have consultative selling 2, that's another module. You can only do 2 if you have done 1. This consists of several isolated topics which does not mean it's just one session. So we can have here consultant for selling paints and gains, 2-3 sessions. The sales process, same again, 2-3 sessions. Intro and elevator pitch, 2 sessions. Discovery phase, 4, 5, 6 sessions, etc. And we have the different curriculum lines, sales mindset, prospecting, consultant selling 1 and 2, negotiating, key account management, and sales management. All of it supported by sales enablement and field on-the-job coaching by e-learning modules from sales enablement and field on-the-job coaching by the direct leads. Excellent. This is a good example of a well-balanced long-term transformation program of different modules, curriculum lines in sales training. Anything else? Well, that summarizes it. The why, what, and how effective sales training and how to get the utmost result. And according to research, if you follow that 70-20-10 rule and do it the right way, with the do's and the don'ts, like I have presented, indeed you will get to return on investment expressed in a knowledge retention of 70%, which means that only 30% is forgotten after a year. That's 7 times, or sometimes even 14 times better than how you used to do it until so far. So that's it. So the good news is, yeah, and that was already shown by OMG, it is indeed possible to have significant improvement in a few tactical selling skills. Tactical consultative selling, I would call that strategic. But okay, um, significant improvement in a few mindset areas, like the belief area, which cannot be solved by training, but can be solved by one-on-one coaching. And significant improvement in the deeper layers of sales DNA. And the only one where it was difficult to get improvement out of sales training programs or sales transformation programs was drive. And drive, like I said, is in the previous video, is something stronger than motivation. It's more animalistic. Having drive is animalistic. It's an animal energy. And this is not something you can provoke or you can train or you can ignite or however you call it by training or even by yourself. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So this also means that drive is one of the most important competencies to take into consideration in your hiring process. So I hope you got something new out of it, new insights. Maybe you have, I'm going to change this and I'm going to do that. By all means, go for it. Go, go, go. And if you have more questions, you know how to find me. My email is in the description. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm all ears for your questions. And I say bella ciao. See you next time.